All right, well, let's start today with something new. I'm going to do the wilderness report. It's 90 degrees out here. It's officially the first hot day of the summer. And the mosquitoes have hatched, which I haven't run into any mosquitoes in the woods so far. And today they are all over me. And as you see, I'm being watched by a whole family of deer at this very moment, which I'm very surprised that they haven't run away. I'm kind of excited about that, actually. I like that fact. I'm going to read something from Holy Mother, Sri Sharda Devi, today, and then kind of build on it. We talk a lot about ignorance being our trouble, and that ignorance really isn't widespread and broad. It really comes down to just a simple thing, one simple mistake. We mistake ourselves for being a body. And being a body then leads to a couple of other things, which we'll touch on in a minute. But here, listen to Holy Mother say this. Everything, husband and wife, or even the body, it's only illusory. It means it's not real. You know, that's a hard thing to swallow. And of course, until you start reaching your older echelons of age, I'm not that old, but at 55, you even start looking at yourself and you're like, oh my God, I'm melting. In slow motion. So I'm watching my body go little by little, and you just start thinking, wow, this really does come to an end. This body really does have a termination point. And so it's a lot easier to understand that it's not real, that if there is a me in here, if this sense of permanence that I have, that I assign to the body when I'm young, but that sense of permanence comes from the I, the me deep within. And until we start to do the practices and just remind ourselves continually that we're separate from the body, we make that big mistake. And she goes on to say that not only are they illusory, but they are shackles of illusion. Unless you can free yourself from these bondages, you will never be able to go to the other shore of the world, to that shore of wisdom, that shore of knowledge, that shore of bliss, of contentedness, of stability, of strength. Even this attachment to the body, the identification of the self, that means your soul, your spirit, with the body, must go. What is this body, my darling? It is nothing but 3 pounds of ashes when it is cremated. There you go. You'll eventually lose all the weight you need. Why so much vanity about it? You know, why do we spend so much time being concerned about it? You know, I love when I'm in the grocery store line and you look at the tabloids and the desperation with which, you know, celebrities have to hang on to their youth. You know, to the point of really all going overboard, you know, frankly, which in a sense, I like it in a weird way. It just shows you how bizarre this world can be. But just to see that desperation of holding on to the things that we value when they're going to go, you know, no matter how much skin cream you use, no matter how many facelifts you have, when you hit 90, everybody's going to know you're 90. And even when I can tell you after 30, when people say you look good, they always put that little phrase, for your age. So better to find the peace of mind that comes by identifying with a spirit and making that spirit beautiful instead of ornamenting this thing, which is, like I said, going away, melting little by little every day, instead of making it the source of your pride and your joy, instead of counting on your looks, you know, to get you through this life. Go inward, you know, become beautiful by being stable, by being giving, by being selfless, by caring about the others around you, by seeing that divine in them. She says it's nothing but 3 pounds of ashes when it's cremated. Why so much vanity about it? However strong or beautiful this body may be, its culmination is in those 3 pounds of ashes, and still people are so attached to it. Glory be to God, she says. So what happens when you're attached to the body? Well, there be a couple of things, basically 3 things come into play. There's 3 things that immediately happen. Lust, you know, that longing for the pleasure of the body. Greed, the longing for power and money. And name and fame, the mental aspect, you know, that support of being loved and being popular and being always supported by everyone around you. So all of those things come, and Ramakrishna says that this whole world, the whole delusion of the world that we live in, that copy of the world that we carry around that we've referenced several times in different blogs, begins to develop. begins to take hold. Lust and greed makes you aware of male and female. Lust and greed makes you aware of fat and skinny, of good looking and ugly, of race and gender, of sexual preference and duty, of age, all of those things. And the more attached you are to the fruits of lust, greed, and name and fame, the more you divide the world into all of those constituent parts. And each time you divide the world, you become smaller in that number. Your portion of that world becomes smaller. So you are, by definition, weakening yourself, the thing that you're depending on for your happiness and your joy. I always go back to thinking of the older monks in their last days, the great bliss that they have, in their lives, the security that they were able to develop by letting go of the body early on and finding that beautiful self within. Because if you count on the body for your pleasure, if you count on this body for your identity, when you reach that old age, what can you do? You've invested everything into something that has failed you, something that is falling away quickly. And what happens? You become bitter, or you become that horribly licentious old man, that creepy old man going around running after young girls or young boys everywhere. Because that he's used to using as his bait and as his source of joy is no longer able to bring that to him. And so this sense of desperation takes over. And it becomes hideous, It becomes hideous. I sat next to a woman on a flight one time going to Tulsa, Oklahoma. She was returning from Europe. First of all, one of my favorite memory was she was talking to her friend, and she was like, Bernice, after 2 weeks in Europe, I didn't see a single thing I couldn't buy at the mall in Tulsa. I love that. That's a total side story, but that just shows you where these things go when you lose priority, when you lose perspective on what you are and what things are. But the other thing I noticed about her is the side of her face, looked like draped curtains. She had one too many facelifts so that her wrinkles were no longer pulled tight. They were literally draped from here up to the point where the surgeon had finished the cut. Now, why do I talk about these things? I'm trying to bring to light the absurdity, because when we're young, we're like, oh, don't be so sex negative, don't be so pleasure negative, don't be so body negative. It's not about being body negative or body positive. Love your body, have a great time with it, but don't depend on it. Don't think that it's forever. Don't base your joy on it. Don't base your identity on it, because it won't be there when you're older. That's what I'm trying to say. And the sooner you let go of that, and the sooner you touch that beautiful self within, that Satchitananda, the sooner you begin to understand its nature and what it has to do with you, that it's actually who you are, that the sooner you know that, the greater your joy will be, the freer your life will be. So take these words of the sages, especially when you're young. Begin the practices so that you don't get stuck. You don't turn into that bitter old man or old woman who wasted their life pursuing the things that they can no longer have because they're just, for whatever reason, they're too tired, they're too hideous, they're too just don't, whatever it is, they just. So that's the word from Holy Mother. Start doing the work. Look within for your value. Look within for your joy and your bliss. Develop your character to be one of unity that moves toward that oneness in all things. That way, you'll have something that will carry you all the way through your old age. The sages say that the only difference between a worldly man and a spiritual man is that a worldly man leaves this world crying, and the spiritual man leaves this world laughing. So be that laughing person leaving the world.